Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. I don't know if you've noticed, but we've got some new branding going on for Thoughts and Coffee. We've got a new graphic. We've got some new overlays. So super, super excited to be with you and really excited for some of the new branding as well. I hope you guys are having a great week so far. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast, the Blended podcast, and also the CEO of Ships. And I join you live every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. And I'm so glad you could all join us today. So before I bring up my guest, I want to talk a little bit about what's happening on Let's Talk Supply Chain this week. So our episode that was released yesterday morning is in partnership with E2 Open. And we're talking about a whole new way of thinking about end-to-end supply chain management. We talk a lot about how they just went public as well. And what does that mean for them as a company? What does that mean for their customers? Because we're seeing that a little bit more these days, especially with supply chain tech. So go and check that out. That's episode 183, wherever you subscribe to the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast, or you can find it under podcasts at letstalksupplychain.com. I also want to let you know we have this category filter. See here? So you can actually filter any of our episodes by the category that you are looking for, by any of the mini series. We have so much great content and so many great solutions. So if you've got like a challenge in supply chain that you're looking for a solution, go to that category filter and we definitely have a solution for that. Also, our upcoming events. So this event is coming up next week. It is in partnership with Six Rivers, and we're going to be talking about uncovering the benefits of collaborative robots. And I'm super excited to be hosting this event. Audrey and I are also going to be hosting an event for ISM Nashville tonight as well at 7:30. So if any of you guys are over in Nashville, we will be coming at you virtually tonight, and we're super excited about that. All right. So without further ado, let's bring in Audrey. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I mean, I don't know about you, but it's going to be 10 degrees Celsius for all the Americans in the audience. 10 degrees Celsius today. And I think you can hear everybody across Ontario very, very, very happy about this.
Very happy. Like pulling out their shorts.
Well, shorts is a little bit much. I was like, I might go for a walk today, but do I wear a jacket? Yes, of course I got to wear a jacket. I mean, 10 is still kind of cold. So for
-10, it feels really warm.
Well, yes, that is very, very, very true. So for everybody who does not know you, why don't you do a bit of an introduction so that we can get to know you?
Okay, Davin agrees that it's shorts weather, so.
Oh, he does? Oh, there we go. Davin, you're one of those. You're one of those that I see walking down the street and I'm like, yeah, not for me. Anyway.
So my name is Audrey Ross. I am an in-house logistics and custom specialist at Orchard Custom Beauty. We're an award-winning business-to-business private labeling company that specializes in cosmetics, beauty tools, and bath accessories. I'm a trade geek. I love coffee. Import, export, international trade, customs, international tax. Apparently that's, I find that fun. And oh, I debuted on Clubhouse last night thanks to thanks to Sarah's hookup with an iPhone and my friends at the Supply Chain Federation, and so
that's awesome. I'm so excited that you're on Clubhouse. We were part of a room last night talking about the after party to TPM, and we were talking all about, technology and customs and all the fun things that the congestion at the port is bringing to everybody in logistics right now. So it was a really fun discussion. So if you are on Clubhouse, I also just in the last couple of days was able to get my Let's Talk Supply Chain club. And so if you guys are on Clubhouse, would love to see you guys there. So come and join the club. Follow me. It's Be Victorious is my handle over on Clubhouse. And also, Rich, yes, thank you so much for that, because I was recognized on the top 100 list by IBM and Supply Chain Digital yesterday, which was amazing. Whoop, whoop. So thank you guys all so much. That was an amazing recognition, and super, super excited about that. All right. So, what are we talking about today? Oh, the question of the week.
Question of the week, yeah.
I was like, where are we? Where am I? What am I doing this morning?
What's happening? Yeah, so question of the week is something that you run every Wednesday.
It
and
is.
we ask the audience, sort of all of the followers to kind of give their answers on a different question every week, usually relating to supply chain. So this week the question is, and that's on Let's Talk Supply Chain, and you posted on your LinkedIn as well, right?
I did post it on mine. Yeah, on
And
Let's
it's on
Talk Supply Chain.
Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, and Facebook.
Oh, and Facebook.
And actually, because I run a club room on Clubhouse every Wednesday, we're now going to be talking about the question of the week in Clubhouse as well, which is a lot of fun. So take it away, Audrey. What is our question of the week?
So the question of the week is, what have you learned about yourself while working in supply chain?
Well, I think the better question is, what haven't I learned? So I don't know about you, but I've kind of been in supply chain since I was 9, because we've talked about it at the dinner table. I started at 16 doing filing. And so I don't know what I haven't learned, because essentially for me, I have grown up in the industry. I haven't really been able to shake it, and I don't want to shake it, because it's absolutely where I need to be, obviously. But what haven't I learned? I've learned so much about friendships. I've learned so much about business. I've learned so much about people, good and bad, which I think, you could say for any industry that you're in. But I've really, really learned that my passion lies in supply chain, and how much I love this industry. And I think it just grows for me every single year. And I've also learned that you can do whatever you want in supply chain. I mean, who thought that I would be doing a live stream on supply chain every single week on LinkedIn?
Yeah. Like 10 years ago, you'd be like,
well, not even like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Not even like 2 years ago.
Yeah. It wasn't.
This is what I get to do. So that's what I've learned. What have you learned? Yeah. And I guess we want to pose the question to everybody in the audience too. What have you learned by working in supply chain?
Yeah. What have I learned about myself? That I can learn new things. Because every day is, especially we work with so many sites globally. So I can learn new pieces about import and export. I can learn about different documents. I can learn different methods and ways to do things. I think, sometimes we think there's a way to go, and then, you attend a conference like TPM, or you hear from people on the question of the week or on these kinds of events, and you learn, oh, I didn't think of doing it that way. So I think for me, it's always that I can keep learning new things, and it keeps it very interesting, and keep meeting new people, which also is just fun. So
awesome. Yeah. I love that. And for anybody who usually tunes in on my personal LinkedIn page, I don't know what's happening. Restream says it's working, but I cannot find it on my LinkedIn. So I hope that you're there. And if you are there and you're commenting, I can't see it, so I apologize. But hopefully we will be back up and running over there next week. All right. So my thoughts and coffee post. That is where we're at. So every Sunday, I don't know if everybody in the audience knows this, but every Sunday I post a thoughts and coffee post, which is really about leadership. It's about things that have kind of, happened in my life over the last week, some thought leadership. And so this Sunday, I was inspired by a conversation that I had with my 19-year-old stepdaughter. So we were on the phone on Friday. I called her and she's like, I'm about to go into an exam. I mean, leave it to me to have impeccable timing. Just going to say that, because that's just what happens. And so we talked for a couple of seconds, and I said, go be amazing. At the end of the conversation, I was like, go be amazing. Go do your thing. And then she said to me, you go and continue to be amazing. You inspire me every day to be the best version of myself. You work so hard every day to make even just a small difference. And I wanted to share that with the community because, and let me tell you, I ugly cried. Okay. Like after I hung up the phone, after she said that, that was a very ugly cry moment. I was driving, so I had some time, right? I had some time and definitely had a bit of a cry, but it was a good cry because, especially in this pandemic when I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm at home on my own a lot and, really doing things and making things happen, but you don't really sit down to reflect on that.
Mm.
And that comment really made me pause. And I wanted to share it with the community to let everybody know that you're making a difference in somebody's life, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
Right. So, what did you think when you saw this?
Well, I thought the same thing, and I've been on the receiving end of that call from you too, where it's like, I'm struggling with something or I'm concerned about something, and you come back with like, you got this, you can do this, like you can do hard things, and I care about you, and off you go, and yeah, we sometimes get to a point where, and I know I do this, where I leave it, where I don't really have conversations with people that are maybe vulnerable, or maybe express some of the things that we think about each other. um, and so it's nice to have those moments and have those conversations, and I think the more we can do it, the better, right? Because we do start to get in our own heads, especially we've been in lockdown for a while, you and I, and here in Toronto. And so, yeah, you do it's hard just to do it on tech, but yeah, having a phone call, or reaching out to a friend, or even reaching out to a colleague and just saying like, hang in there. We can do this. You've got this. It really does kind of give you that momentum and that motivation to kind of keep at it, and definitely boosts your spirit and cheers you up. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it gave me an opportunity to use one of my most favorite quotes by Jimi Hendrix. And I've actually framed this quote for every person in my family, or my close family, because my nephew's name is Hendrix, and it just so resonates with me. And it's, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that is just so profound and goes with the conversation that we were having. So
Yeah.
just wanted to share that, and so grateful for everybody who, resonated with that post, commented on that post, because that was a really big moment for me. If you know anything about me, you know that was a very, very big moment for me. And I wanted to share it with the community. So I just appreciate everybody's love on that one. All right. Let's get into the supply chain topics. What are we talking about today? Okay. So the first article that we are talking about is this one. So I found this one, and it's talking about, because we're all talking about, what is it going to look like, right? What is it going to look like when we return back to the office? Or are we going to return back to the office? Is it going to be a hybrid approach? And what does that look like? Well, this article does a complete deep dive into, what are the consequences of us going to a remote society? Because there definitely are consequences. They're also talking about people being given the option of working from home at a reduced salary. So the question that we have for the audience right now is, would you take a reduced salary to work from home? I want to hear from you, because I really want to know if this is actually an option for most people, or would you rather just go into the office and get paid your regular salary? So when you read this article, what did you think? I'll go through a couple of points in a minute.
Yeah.
But would you accept a reduced salary?
No, because I'm saving you money by having my office at home. I'm paying my hydro. This is a tough. I don't want to like rant, but money you don't face. You can reduce your office space. You get my talent, but you won't want to pay me a reduce and like I see a bunch of financial people. Facebook was like, oh, we're not going to pay people to San Francisco wages. You're like, you don't pay me San Francisco wages. You pay me for my talent. Like what? How are you doing your salary before? Oh, because we're at my address? What are you thinking? I don't know. I think it's silly. And I think it's, the expectation like, oh, you're working at home, so I should pay you less. And you're like, but my costs are more for me to work at home. It's like I get free coffee at the office. So
We're getting
I don't
some
know.
amazing
This
comments
also
over
has
here. We've got a WTF moment in the audience right now. And
I
they
so
weren't
it's
sure
just
whether that was
I
their
don't know
inside voice.
who I think it's like it's a good PR campaign from companies who think that this is going to happen because they're getting these people like these thought leaders to come out and share with like, oh, it'd be we should just, if we start to normalize it, then people will accept it. And I'm like, no, we're not accepting reduced wages to work from home where we now have to pay for your office space. No, sorry. But I think this is great. And it highlights this guy who I love, Dan Price, who's the founder and CEO of the Gravity Payments, and he took a reduced salary, and he's amazing. I follow him on Twitter, and he talks about the hurdles and everything that he goes through for him to take, instead of taking his $1 million CEO salary, he reduced his salary for like 70,000, so everyone at the company can level up to 70,000. So definitely check him out. And yeah, it's when he at his company, it's like, one, they talk about salaries, which a lot of companies don't. And two, it's like you have buy-in, right? Because they're talking about it and they're sharing it together. So even earlier to adjust salary, and oh, yeah, then Davin says they bought him a car. Well, yeah, because everybody has buy-in and they're encouraged to work together. And then you see like these people coming in like, you should take a reduced salary because your address changed. I don't want to work with you. It's just not positive.
Well,
It just becomes so negative.
yeah. So we
Yeah,
did lose you a
Randall,
little bit on some of the stuff that
sorry.
you were saying, but it's okay. I think we got the gist of it, and you're very passionate about this. And I'm so
No.
glad that we're talking about it today. What they also talked about in the article was David Price also gave his employees the option. He said that he was going to take no salary
Yeah,
because they had to reduce salaries. And then he also gave the employees an option of reducing their salary as well, which I think one of the things that I'd like to take away from this article is about providing choice. So I think by us
yeah,
asking this question to the audience about whether you would accept a reduced salary to work from home or not is giving everybody a choice. That may or may not work for 85%, but maybe that 15% would feel good with that potential option. Who knows? But at least at the end of the day, I think if we're giving our employees that choice to be able to decide what works for them, what works for their family, what works with their lifestyle, I think that's what this really comes down to. And some of the things that they talk about in this is litigation. They
yeah,
talk about how not providing a choice opens the employer up to litigation. But they also talk about, as an employee, if you're thinking about going after your employer for whatever reasons, constructive dismissal or whatever has come out of any of these discussions or the pandemic, is that you have to do it right away. And if you don't do it right away, you open yourselves up to litigating for no reason.
yeah,
Um, One thing that I didn't like what he said in this article was that, contrary to popular belief and contrary to the discussions that I've been having with leaders, is that we actually lack productivity at home. But all the conversations that I've been having is that it actually makes people more productive, or people have been more productive. They've been able to get more work done. And in a lot of cases, people are working, like I'm getting emails at like 9, 10 o'clock at night from people.
hmm,
Whereas pre-pandemic, I wasn't doing that. So I feel almost as if they're working even longer hours.
that's what I've heard. Like, and that I feel we're sort of working longer hours, but how much of that is sustainable? Because a lot of that, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, was people knew that jobs were going to be uncertain. And so when you went to work from home, especially if you worked at companies that were very traditional and very much 9 to 5 in your desk working, that you really felt that you had to hustle to prove that it's like, no, this has to work because I'm so worried about being laid off. And I think we saw in the first piece of the pandemic, the first, say the first, second quarter, that people were hustling so hard and people were like, oh, this is great. And then you're like, were they hustling because were they hustling or were they just working? And it's like, I think a lot of it was fear around losing their job. And so we have to have more context for that. We can't apply this like, oh, well, when they went to work from home, it was like this, because you're like, well, they went to work from home in a pandemic where they thought they were going to lose their job. So what's your work level, right? So then now as we're coming a year into this, has that shifted? And our companies who were really about presenteeism able to shift into managing work and objectives better? And I think there's a lot of work to do in that. And there's a lot of coaching that needs to be done still.
So I think we've started a movement. Hashtag pay more for work from home. Love it. Thank you so much for that.
The PR.
Yeah, I think the other thing that this article talks about is the threat of local jobs. So if they are going to move to a more remote environment, if that means that a Canadian can move or an American can move from Texas to Miami, potentially to work remotely and not go into the office, what that means is they can also look at hiring from other countries at reduced salary levels. And so we open ourselves to a little bit of that threat. And so just something to think about as we go into the next conversation. So the next one that we're talking about is around climate change. And the reason why I wanted to bring this forward is obviously sustainability is very much top of mind in supply chain. And this article actually talks about how this particular technology is helping to give insights into supply chains from a carbon footprint perspective. So as we're going through this article, the question that I have for you or the audience as well is, would you buy or work with companies who are working potentially with this company, which I'll show you, it's called Watershed, and I'll show you a little bit of information about them, because those companies are able to track their carbon footprint and are looking to reduce it as well. What did you think of this article?
I think it's very timely, and it was a conversation again at the TPM conference last week. It was a conversation as well. They had a whole panel on this idea, and so one, I think it's fabulous that this is kind of finally happening, and two, I think this is such a great kind of direction to go in, and Watershed can sort of it's like the how as a company you're kind of like, how do I track this? What do? I don't have time or people to put on this. And so this is seemingly like here's your one-stop shop for how you kind of can coordinate and organize this. And you just need to follow this. So I like that piece.
Yeah, I do too. And there was also a piece about supply chain, right? So they were talking about how the technology tracks emissions from each step of its supply chain. And they were talking about one of their customers, Sweet Green, can now determine which lettuce farms have not only better quality product, but also lower carbon emissions. And so that's why we're asking you that question is, does this make a difference to your buying habits? Because I'd love to know. And so if anybody is looking for this particular tech company that we're talking about in this article, they are called Watershed, so watershedclimate.com. And the reason why I'm showing this to you as well is because a lot of companies are, looking to do their part in sustainability. I'd like it not to just be a tick the box kind of thing. And so I want to be able to provide solutions. And that's one of the reasons why I'm showing this to you, is because I really feel like if sustainability is something that's on your mind and something that the company is looking to do, Watershed could be that technology that might be an entrance for you into making some of that happen and starting to track your carbon footprint. It's got investor data and all sorts of stuff. So thank you, Larry. Larry put the website there for me. I appreciate you, Larry.
But it's coming. It's coming. Customers want to see. Customers are going to want to. You're going to offer them a quote. Here's a picture of your product. Here's the details of your product. Here's the price. And beside it is going to start to be a graph showing what your carbon is. Like that's coming. I see other companies are starting to do it, and your
Yeah.
customers are going to want to see that. Yeah, Rich
Well, and
makes a
I
good
think
point.
yeah, I think one of the interesting things with this technology too is that they're giving you very good reporting.
Yeah.
So it says investor reporting, so I haven't actually seen it. It says investor reporting, but at least it's reporting that you can provide to your customers, you can provide to consumers, you can provide to partners, you can provide to investors. So definitely something to think about and something to check out. All right. So last but not least, we are talking about Eric Johnson's newsletter. So we started this a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to do this every couple of weeks because Eric comes out with this logistics tech newsletter every Friday. And it's great. I mean, if anybody doesn't know Eric Johnson, you need to know, you need to follow him. And he does a great job of bringing things like baseball into an analogy with logistics and supply chain. So go and check that out. And we're going to talk about that right now. The question that we're asking you while we're talking about this article, what tech are we missing in supply chain right now? Because one of the comments that is made in this article is that we still have a long way to go. So Audrey, tell me what you thought about this. I mean, I just love this, regardless of anything that he said, was because he brought baseball into it. And I'm a real big baseball fan.
That's a good launching off point. Yeah, I mean, as you said, what's great about Eric is obviously he's a very experienced journalist, and he's able to give you sort of the story of logistics, tech, and supply chain. Right? He really has great examples. And this, of course, we're talking about. That investment in logistics technology and startups is sort of this creating an unfair playing field. And so he really kind of gets into different examples and talks about, when we think of, it's not fair that this company gets to do this with, the attention that they get, and why isn't my company or this other company getting that advantage? And so it really delves in nicely into the specifics of, the examples that he sees in the market. So I liked it for that point.
Yeah, and he talks about the fairness versus the value, I think it was. And he talks about
Yeah.
how VCs are thinking about supply chain tech and why the freemium model, right? And why they're looking to offer that freemium model over profit
Yeah.
because basically they're looking at growth. And for a lot of us, when we're looking at supply chain tech and we're looking at the money that's going into the industry, and no profit is being made, we're kind of like, what is the point here? And I think he drives it home in this newsletter. I
Yeah.
think what's also interesting is he talks about how all of the startups in supply chain are benefiting from the visibility
Yeah.
that these VCs are providing to the industry. But he also talks about how we definitely have a long way to go.
Yeah.
But the baseball reference is about in the 90s and the steroids and how home runs actually saved the baseball industry from dying.
Yeah.
Apparently, I didn't even know this was a thing. But anyways, but it was all because of the steroids, and so he brings that into perspective when we're talking about logistics and supply chain tech, and when we're looking at fairness versus value or what it's brought to that particular industry, and that's why the analogy is so poignant. One thing that I do want to bring up though is VCs for me and in my experience, Eric talks about how they're investing in companies that don't have product, that are just at idea stage. And most of the VCs I've spoken to, they want me to have profit. They want me to have a product. And, it's a little confusing as to why they would invest in somebody at idea stage and why they wouldn't. And so that's maybe
Yeah.
something that I would challenge Eric to potentially write about next time. But anyways, so we are coming to the end of the show. Peter has said 2-minute time check. Wow, we've even got the audience trying to keep us on check for today. Thank you very much, Peter, for that. I love it. And I love the fact that you guys spend every Tuesday morning with us. We hope that we were able to deliver yet again on this Thoughts and Coffee. Audrey will be back in 2 weeks. I'm not sure who the guest is going to be next Tuesday. I have to work that out in the next couple of days. And I will definitely let you know because I will be posting about that as well. So thank you so much for everybody for joining us. We've got all the articles in the comments. And Audrey, thanks so much for being with us again.